Andrew Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. I greatly welcome this debate and the increased attention being given to the need for action to make cycling a real choice, more convenient and therefore more attractive and, as the previous speaker was saying, more enjoyable. Like others, I think the Times campaign has done a great job in massively raising the profile of cycling. I'd like to also place on record my appreciation of the work done by Cyclox, the cycling organisation in my own constituency, by Sustrans, British Cycling and the CTC. As others have said, action on the threats to cycling is crucially important for the health and environmental benefits it brings and in order to cut the carnage of serious accidents and deaths to cyclists. In Oxford last October, Joanna Braithwaite, who worked as PA to the rector of St Aldate's Church in my constituency, was killed cycling to the church. She was knocked down by a cement mixer lorry. There have been other deaths too in Oxford in recent years, usually involving lorries turning, each one an horrific, avoidable tragedy. So I strongly support the call for sensors, truck turning alarms, mirrors, safety bars and HGV training to cut the risk to people cycling. The Shadow Secretary of State's proposal to pay for this by hypothecating income from the proposed HGV road charging scheme is a good one and something I hope the Minister will tell us the government will look at positively. More generally, Mr Weir, on funding measures to improve conditions for cycling, we need to remember that these measures cost very little in comparison with the costs of making and maintaining roads. Switching a small proportion of the Highway Agency budget to provide cycleways, as the Times campaign rightly proposes.
House, I suggest we suspend for 10 minutes and for voting.
Order. We go back to the debate now. I think it might be helpful if I tell colleagues that as a result of the two divisions, this debate will now run until 5:54, and I'll start the wind-ups at 5:20, leaving just a few minutes at the end for the member for Cambridge. Andrew Smith.
Thank you, Mr Bailey. I was making the point that funding measures to improve conditions for cycling costs very little in comparison with the costs of making and maintaining roads. Switching a small proportion of the Highways Agency budget to provide cycleways, as the Times campaign rightly proposes, could transform provision for cycling and would have huge cost savings when you factor in the impact on health, the environment and reduce road congestion. This should be matched by a similar switch of local highway authority funds to provision for cycling and maintenance of cycle tracks. We also need town and citywide planning of cycle infrastructure and clear accountability for its delivery. I cycle in Oxford, as do lots of local residents, and the truth is that the quality of provision is very patchy. Reasonably good in parts with dedicated lanes, marked cycle routes and priority at traffic lights, but bad in others with dangerous sections of road, poor road surfaces and potholes close to the curb where the cyclist will usually be. There's a pressing need to join up the cycle network so that journeys people want to make can be made safely by bike right across the city. Now, after a very energetic and successful campaign, we succeeded in getting 20-mile-an-hour limits in all the residential areas of Oxford, but I have to say there's a very big issue on enforcement so that motorists realise that this is a legal limit and not something they've voluntarily got to aspire to. We should also ensure that there are safe routes to school for children so that more parents are confident that in encouraging their children to cycle, they're not putting their lives at risk. This would have huge benefits to children's health, cut the danger, pollution and congestion of the school run, and help promote cycling for generations to come. Better, more careful use of road maintenance expenditure is also needed, ensuring improvements for cyclists at little or no cost, simply by designing in their needs from the outset, which sadly is far from standard practice. There are many instances where major roads and pavements are being rebuilt and where for only a fractional increase in cost, a dedicated cycle lane could could be added. People cycling also need to be given a fair deal where roadworks are being carried out. Too often, the signing and guarding blocks off the cycleway as if somehow it's not important. My constituent Graham Smith has sent me photos of this in Oxford, where cyclists were as a result forced into a busy carriageway. Practice on signing and guarding falls, I understand, within the remit of the Code of Practice known as Chapter 8 under the New Road and Street Works Act 1991. Can I suggest the Minister looks at this closely and takes steps to ensure that it responds sympathetically to our shared desire to enable more journeys by bike, and that highway authorities properly comply with the duty of care they have to all road users, which surely must mean equal care for cyclists. This has been a great debate, Mr. Bailey. Let's make sure it's not just a worthy venting of concern and aspiration, but a catalyst for action to make cycling in this country as good as it could be. At a time when our road and track cyclists are showing the brilliant best which UK cycle sport can achieve, let's make the joys and wider benefits of cycling safely accessible to all.